going there, Alex. They don't mind going back to that because they know how it often pans out when it's them versus the communists in the streets. So we're trying to keep it from going there. And for it to not go there, people like me and others that are concerned about illegal immigration need to watch our affiliations, do the very best we can to keep people who are being racist out of the political debate. And we need the help of black and Hispanic leaders. I've said it 100 times, and of course the smear groups will never give me credit for it. I've said that my goal is to unify, and this is what I think they fear the most, unify the 80% of Americans that keep showing up in these polls that feel a certain way. They don't want us to unify.
That's right. America isn't 80% white. It's roughly 50%. So what's that other 30%? That's Hispanics and blacks and Asians. They want private property. They want the Second Amendment. They don't want to live in the third world.
Well, the way we see it, over 80% of white Americans want the border security and illegal immigration reversed. Over 65% of black Americans feel the same way. And somewhere between 54 and 56% of America's legal Hispanics feel that way. Now, unfortunately, over half the Hispanics in the country right now are here illegally. So that reduces the Hispanics that are with Americans down to under 30%. But overall, 80% of Americans, especially if you take the illegal aliens out of the polling data, want the border secured, our existing laws enforced, no benefits for illegals, employers find, and illegal aliens to go home.
Yeah, I've seen Gallup polls of 79% of Hispanics want more border security. So I guess that must be a poll of people that are citizens.
Well, I'm not sure. We're very guarded about Gallup. We've seen Gallup come out with some readings that are very far off from the other poll medians on readings like this. But what I'm trying to say is the elites that are responsible for what's happening here in the country do not want William Gheen, Alex Jones, or anybody else to unify the public against them. And so that's why the racial canards are being thrown out left and right to try to keep that from happening. That is their game. That's how they play it. And if there's no racism to be found on a group or individual, they'll either make it up or try to send somebody in to label them like that, which is what we were talking about before the end of the last break. Even that, one of the biggest racists that had a radio station in the country last year, when he was finally arrested in court, it turned out he was on the FBI payroll.
And they had all the emails where the feds are going, good job, bring them out, you make them look extreme. He's like, don't worry, I'm getting them for you. And it turned out he was the highest level FBI agent, but then that looks like it's classified. Then they said asset, but at national security level. It was above counterterrorism.
He went right after the North American Union and kept floating bogus claims. I know a lot of people out there listening probably saw in their emails claiming that he had documentation of the Amero, the new currency for America, and that a certain number of Ameros and gold had been shipped to China, and he had evidence of it. Over at ALIPAC.us, the largest archive of information on these topics, we tell people to keep a grain of salt handy, but we do our very best, especially when we see something going viral on the web, to analyze it and to rate its credibility level. And we kept looking at this stuff coming out of this Hal Turner guy because it was on.
No, exactly. He would say computers found with a tracker chip instead of covering all the real admissions of tracking, and then it would be discredited. Or he said, I got this from the Mint when it was a joke coin. We pointed out the Mint in Colorado that actually made it as an anti-North American Union. So instead of looking at all the real SPP documents that Judicial Watch got, instead of looking at all the facts that I was covering, you were covering, that Lou Dobbs was covering, instead the media could say, look at this Amero coin hoax.
Disinformation. Hal Turner, who was on the payroll of the Federal Bureau of Investigation, broadcasting racial hatred and racial animosity, was also broadcasting disinformation about illegal immigration in the North American Union and one currency. He was putting it out intentionally. He had masters and handlers that were paying him to do it. And so, we know that there's a game afoot here. I just think that the problem we're having right now, Alex, is getting some of these agents are all around the immigration enforcement movement. They're on the inside. They're all around and on the inside of the Tea Party movement. They have, infiltrated, and we've got to do something. We have got to do something, Alex, to get the true blue people here together and soon to strengthen and improve communication and cooperation in a way that cannot be derailed by the infiltrators and the crazies.
The best way to deal with it is to call it out when you see it. but to follow the people to their car, get their license number. You'll then discover they're a Fed or they're working for the Southern Poverty Law Center, and that's come out. But to also just continue to point out the AP article where these Democratic operatives in all 50 states organized and did go out, and it was also in New Mexico news. They even admitted to the news they would dress up like Nazis with racist signs, and they even admitted they were doing it. So as long as we explain to the public that most of this is provocateur, I think that's the most important message.
Well, we're going to basically, the Tea Parties have been important and strong up to this point, but we're going to basically steer people away from the rally thing into the campaigns and elections, because we feel that is the number one place that the public can make the difference that it needs to make.
Yeah, we need to have Tea Parties inside the State House in hearings, inside the County Commissioner's Court, inside the City Council, not just dissipating all of our energy standing around in the street.
Well, each campaign for public office that's active right now is a mini organization in itself that needs money and people. And the candidates, I don't think that the Feds and the Democrats and others have a lot of agent provocateurs that are posing as candidates right now, and it's too late for them to create them. They are able to get activists out there, people at events, and events are the most vulnerable things that there are. But, you know, basically, these people are highly sophisticated liars. 99% of what I'm having to deal with and what the American public is having to deal with right now, I think could be described in 2 words: sophisticated liars.
Well said, my friend. Other points you want to get out there to the public. Let's talk about Mexico being a failed state and collapsing, and the acceleration of crime and murder, especially racial murder, including piracy now in places in Texas bordering Mexico.
Well, you know, I've just recently heard about some of the piracy. Some of the piracy I would describe as illegal immigration itself as a form of piracy of the American citizenry in many ways. Mexico, you know, the death count, and the situation there. I'll tell you a story that I think you'll appreciate, Alex. I got a guy that pops on my website every now and then, says he's a young man in Mexico who likes video games, but is sympathetic to our cause, or so he says. But he always sends me pictures and images and things about how the club he was near got shot up by the Mexican gangs the other night with blah, 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 people killed. So it's really hard for me to tell where this guy's coming from, but he sent me a message last week of a Los Zetas commando raid on a villa in Mexico where 5 to 15 cars rolled into this little town at 5:30 a.m., and apparently the government or the federales had some digital cameras set up that documented all this. And they got out and they blocked the roads and secured the access in a paramilitary fashion with their ski mask and their assault rifles, all converged on a villa of some drug lord or something and started firing through the windows or whatever. And he wanted to know what I thought of the tactics of Los Zetas. And I said the tactics of Los Zetas are horrible, and what you see here in this film is horrific. However, what you see here in this film could not happen in over half of America, because there are more armed men with more firepower than you see in this video within a 1-mile radius of my house due to a thing called the Second Amendment. And if that type of thing happened in a lot of neighborhoods around America at 5:30 in the morning after the first gunfire went off, a lot of people would open their windows and handle it from their bedrooms. That's what Mexico needs.
I see where you're going with this. This is the way they threaten you. I get the same stuff. What do you think of this? What do you think of how we'll kill you? Oh, are you concerned about that as a form of intimidation? So that's what it is, a threat.
It is, but it's also, my response is that because I live in the United States and because I'm a free American with First and Second Amendment rights, that if they came into my neighborhood, or still over half the neighborhoods in America, and tried that, they wouldn't get out scot-free. You're not going to, or they wouldn't get away with it more than once. You know, the citizenry of America is armed, and we are arming ourselves in greater capacities every day, especially after watching trailers for films like Machete. And therefore, we, the people of the United States, are empowered. In Mexico, the government has guns, the gangs have guns, the people have none. And so they are perpetual victims. And
what do you think of the Mexican president? We're going to play this clip in a moment, coming out and talking about his people in America, his people and how they're being abused. This is a foreign power openly in the U.S. telling us what to do in our country. What's your take on that?
Well, I think that we should, every time he tries to step in the White House, he should be presented with a bill for his people and our country, an estimated bill. And each time he comes back, he should be handed the increased total bill and explain that he's not going to be allowed in the United States or in the White House or any other government institution, much less a couple years ago, Alex, he didn't even bother with stopping by the White House. He broke with diplomatic decorum and just entered the United States and traveled around the Southwest